All right, let's dive into this story. It's about a musical art form where, the soul really speaks directly through the hands. It's a story about passion, about tragedy, and, well, a reinvention so profound it actually changed the very sound of flamenco.
This line, from one of his own songs, it just captures everything. It makes you ask a pretty fundamental question. What happens when a master guitarist's most precious tools, his hands, are just gone? Well, this is the story of how that unimaginable loss gave birth to a completely new voice in music. So our story kicks off in Seville, the absolute heart of flamenco, with a young prodigy named Antonio Herrera. Born back in 1973 into this long line of gypsy musicians, it really seemed like he was destined for greatness from the moment he picked up a guitar. People called him Little Hands of the Melita, and that nickname just perfectly captured his unique talent. His fingerwork, you see, wasn't just fast. It was so precise, so delicate, it reminded people of the graceful, powerful flourishes of a matador's cape. He was already a true artist. Now, to really get Herrera's journey, you have to understand this one concept, duende. It's not just about being technically perfect. No, it's that raw, emotional soul of a performance, that connection to a deep sense of passion and, yeah, even pain. And for young Antonio Herrera, achieving that duende, that was the ultimate goal. But then, in the spring of 2004, right when he was at the peak of his promise, Herrera's life and his art were shattered in a single tragic moment. What happened next is, well, it's almost unbelievable. This just heartbreaking sequence of events, it all went down in his family's garden. He was there caring for the roses that his mother, Doña Rosario, who was blind, absolutely adored. And in this just terrible moment of misperception, she mistook his hands for overgrown thorns and, with a pair of garden shears, she unknowingly severed all 10 of his fingers. I mean, Herrera's own words, they just capture the profound and painful irony of it all, don't they? The very hands he used to create so much beauty were taken in an act that was born from a mother's love for her garden. It's a tragedy that sounds like it was pulled from a novel. So what followed was this 5-year odyssey of physical and emotional reconstruction. And the conventional solutions, things like prosthetics, they just failed him. They couldn't replicate the incredible nuance you need for flamenco guitar. He was completely adrift. This one question, it became his entire world. And it wasn't just a practical problem, right? It was an existential one. It forced him to confront the absolute limits of his art and of his own identity. After the prosthetics were a bust, and after years of struggle, inspiration finally struck in a rehab clinic. He started experimenting, before landing on a truly radical adaptation. He worked with engineers, developing this custom harness, this series of levers he could control with his forearms and torso, and it allowed him to form chords in a way no one had ever imagined. So his public return was at the 2009 Festival de Jerez. He walked out on stage, totally unannounced, and just started to play. The audience, the critics, everyone, they were left in the state of absolute stunned reverence. See, he didn't just relearn to play, he created an entirely new signature style. He moved way beyond traditional fingerwork to develop what they call the Binus tremolo, a sound that actually mimicked the flutter of a cape, and he achieved it through a kind of dexterity that was just as emotional as it was physical. And his comeback? Whoa. It wasn't just some personal victory, it was a massive critical and commercial success. His album, which he poetically titled Fingers of Fire, it topped the charts, he got a Latin Grammy nomination, and now he's one of the most in-demand flamenco performers on the planet. And get this, his impact goes even further. His story resonated so deeply that since 2020, attendance at flamenco events in Spain has jumped by 14%. He is personally credited with breathing new life into this ancient art form. But Herrera's whole philosophy of adaptation, it didn't just stop at the stage. No, he took the lessons he learned from his own struggle and transformed them into a pretty remarkable business empire. He founded a company, called it Manitas Gear, and started creating products directly inspired by his own journey. I mean, he took his personal solution and turned it into a way to help other people who are facing their own physical challenges, both in music and way beyond it. His key product is a pair of adaptive gloves. And you might think they'd be super expensive, but they're just €45. But they're also incredibly innovative, made from ethically sourced kangaroo leather for amazing tactile feedback. A detail that, let's be honest, only someone who truly understands that need for sensitivity could have ever come up with. And the demand has been just incredible. Over 250,000 pairs sold worldwide. That just shows you the massive global appeal of his practical, adaptive design. They're used by everyone, from surgeons to motorcycle riders. And he didn't just pocket the profits. He funneled his success right back into the community through his foundation. It's already funded 1,200 scholarships for adaptive arts education. He's literally funding the next generation of adaptive artists. So in the end, this incredible resilience, it didn't just create art, it also built an empire. Forbes España now estimates his net worth at 12 million euros. And all of this, it brings us full circle, right back to the very essence of flamenco and that concept we started with, duende. As the ethnomusicologist Lola Fernandez puts it, experts see his journey as the ultimate embodiment of flamenco's core paradox. It's this idea of pain, creating something profoundly beautiful. His scarred body literally became the canvas for his art. So ultimately, his story just completely redefines what it means to be a master. It shifts the focus away from simple technical perfection and towards something much, much deeper. The fierce, improvisational power of the human spirit to overcome anything.
And that leaves us with a final thought, a really provocative one. Is great art born from our abilities, our natural gifts, our perfect tools, or does it truly emerge from how we confront, adapt to, and ultimately transcend our limitations?